Welcome everyone to IELTS online series day 14, and in this class we'll be talking about the reading section. As we have already started the reading section and we have discussed few question types, in this class we'll be talking about the two major question types, which are matching features and matching headings question type. We will also be solving the one sample question from each question type, and we'll look at the strategies for these questions. So let us quickly begin. So let us discuss the strategies for the matching features. The first strategy or the first thing that you should know about this question type is obviously that the questions do not follow the order of the text in this question type as well. So by the time we are done discussing all the question type, you should be able to group questions as to which questions follow the order of the text and which do not follow the order of the text. So when I say questions do not follow the order of the text, what I mean is if the question is in sequence of question number 1 2 3 4, you're not going to find the orders in that answers in that order in the text, right? So again, this question type does not follow the order of the text. Another common strategy among all the question type is obviously to read the question very carefully, first of all, along with the instructions as to what the instruction is asking you to do. Then in this question type, we will quickly look at a sample for this question type as well. But another important strategy in this question type is to look at the features that has been given in the question. The features can actually be any kind of names or nouns in context to the information that has been given in the passage, and you are required to look at these features first and read them, and then scan for the features in the reading text and underline them. Remember that some features will appear more than once and that you should underline them all, right? Now, unlike the question type of matching information where we had to skim the entire passage to get to our answers, in this case you do not necessarily have to skim the entire passage. So in this case also, the major strategies that we are going to use is of scanning. The next strategy is to focus on the features that appear only once first, because these are the easiest. Now, as I have mentioned, you are going to underline the features that was given in the question, and you are going to underline all of those features which you are going to find multiple times. Now, there could be features which you are going to find only once. So now what we are going to do is we are going to read the information that has been given of those features and see if that information matches with the statements that has been given in the question. So next strategy is in matching names, read around the name to see if their findings or research comes before or after their name. Now, especially after we have scanned the name, we should be careful about as to what information to target or read to know about that person's research or that university's information that has been related to that specific feature. So be careful about that as well. Read their research or findings and then go back to the statements in the question and match. Obviously, be aware of synonyms, which is a very common strategy for each question type. When you find a statement that matches a feature, delete that statement, and each statement can only be used once. So basically, let's say you found a feature in the text, you read it, you went back to the question, and then you matched it with the statement that has been given in the question. Now you know that the statement is already taken by a feature. So in this case, just put a cross mark or maybe cross it out on the question paper if you can. And why we do this is because as we move on with the questions, this will allow you to have lesser options to choose from in the statements. So I think the strategy will be more clear as we look at the sample for this question. Let us look at a sample for this question type, and you can download a sample for this question type from a passage called A Second Attempt at Domesticating the Tomato, which you can find in Cambridge 17 Test 2 Passage 2. And here is a question sample for this question type. Now, in this case, again, as we can see, very important to read the instructions that has been given in the question. And these kind of questions are actually easy to identify because in these questions, you will see a list of, features that has been given to you, such as these, and you're also going to see the statements that has been given such as these. So it's actually relatively easy to identify this question type, but again, please read the instructions as to what is the instruction asking us to do. Now in this case, we can see that questions number 19 to 23 and the list of researchers has been given in the question, and the questions want us to match each statement with the correct researcher A to D. Moreover, the question is also asking us to write the correct letter A to D in the boxes 19 to 23 on your answer sheet. And an extra point has been given, which is you may use any letter more than once. As we can see, there are 5 questions, whereas only 4 options of researchers for us to match. So we obviously know that one of those researcher or multiple of those researchers have to be repeated, twice or multiple times in this case. So let us start doing this question. So as per the strategies that we have just discussed, the first thing that we are going to do is scan these words in the paragraph, because we know that it's very easy for us to scan for exact nouns, and in this case it's names, right? And as I have mentioned that you are going to find these names multiple times at the passage, so let us start with the first researchers, who is Georg Kudla. Now we find the word Georg Kudla in multiple paragraphs. For example, in paragraph number A, in paragraph number C, in paragraph number E and B. And be very careful, because you may find just half of their names, and or the full names or just last name, but you have to read the research as to what the researcher is saying. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to read around the names of the researcher that we have found in the paragraph, and let us read. So, in paragraph number A, we find the information that this could transform what we eat, says Georg Kudla at the University of Munster in Germany, a member of the Brazilian team. There are 50,000 edible plants in the world, but 90% of our energy comes just from 15 crops. Moreover, he also goes on to mention that Kudla's team tripled the size of fruit by editing a gene called fruit weight, and increased the number of tomatoes per truss by editing another called multiflora. Kudla did not want to reveal which species were in his team's sites, because CRISPR has made the process so easy. Anyone with the right skills could go to their lab and do this. So these are the information that has been found, that I found near the word Kudla. And now go back to the statements and see which of the statement is matching with the information that is associated with the feature Georg Kudla. Now, as we start reading, the first statement, domestication of certain plants could allow them to adapt to future. We do not find any information related to that. Question number 20, the idea of growing and eating unusual plants may not be accepted on a large scale. Again, this is not something that I found for Georg Kudla. Question number 21, it is not advisable for the future direction of certain research to be made public. Now, if we go back, we can see that in paragraph number E, he does not want to reveal which species were in his team sites, because he thinks that anybody could go and do this, and hence, actually, he does not want his research to be made public. So, this is a probable option for feature number A, right? So the answer for this question is going to be A. 22, present efforts to domesticate one wild fruit are limited by the cost involved. He does not talk about cost. Humans only make use of a small proportion of the plant food available on the earth. So something related to this has also been given, which is 90% of our energy just come from 15 crops, while there are 50,000 edible plants, and hence this information is also something that is being said by Kudla, and hence our answer is going to be for question number 21 and 23 is going to be option number A. Now we have already chosen two pointers, two statements from the 5 statements that were given, and as we move on with the question, we do realize that we have lesser options to choose from, hence making our task easier. Now the second researcher was Caxia Gao, and while we scan for the name Caxia Gao, we find it again in multiple paragraphs, in paragraph number A and in paragraph number E. So let us read what does C say about domestication of plants. We can now mimic the known domestication course of major crops like rice or others of the Chinese academy. Then we might try to domesticate plants that have never been domesticated. Okay. She also talks about the 3 teams already have their eye on other plants that could be catapulted into the mainstream, including foxtail, oatgrass, and cowpea, by choosing wild plants that are drought or heat tolerant. Says Gao, we could create crops that will thrive even as the planet. So she's talking something about environmental challenges. Now, this is because I have already read the questions. I know that question number 19 is an answer for this question, as she talks about this statement in paragraph number E, right? Domestication of certain plants could allow them to adapt to in future environmental challenge. So certain plants are basically foxtail, oatgrass, and cowpea. And so the challenges such as drought or heat tolerant can actually be domestication can actually help these plants to adapt to warming of planet or environmental challenges. And hence 19 is our correct answer for option number B. So we are going to choose option number B as our answer for this question. Moving on, we know that these options are already crossed out. So if you're doing a paper-based test, you can always cross out or cross them out serially for you to able to see which matches the remaining features. Now let us look for the word Joyce Van Eyck, and we find this only in one paragraph, which is in paragraph number D. So let us see what is he saying. Meanwhile, Joyce Van Eyck at the Boyce Thompson Institute in New York State decided to use the same approach to domesticate the ground cherry or golden berry. For the first time, this fruit looks similar to closely related Cape gooseberry. Okay. Ground cherries are already sold to a limited extent in the US, but they're hard to produce because the plant has sprawling growth habit and the small fruits fall off the branches when ripe. Van Eyck's team has edited the plants to increase fruit size, make their growth more compact, and to stop fruits dropping. Okay, there is potential for this to be a commercial crop, but she adds that taking the work further would be expensive because of the need to pay for a license for the CRI SPR technology and get regulatory approval. So let us see in the options that are remaining as to which matches. The idea of growing and eating unusual plants may not be accepted on a large scale, so I did not find any information regarding this. Present efforts to domesticate one wild fruit are limited by the cost involved. So that one wild fruit is actually ground cherries, and it is actually limited by how expensive it is going to be. So 22 is going to be our answer for option number C. Moving on to looking at the remaining one last feature, which is Jonathan Jones, and we find it around the last of the passes. So let us see what Jonathan Jones says. This approach could boost the use of many obscure plants of the Sainsbury lab in the UK, but it will be hard for new foods to grow so popular with farmers and consumers that they become new staple crops. So hence the only options remaining, which is the idea of growing and eating unusual plants, may not be accepted on a large scale. And this is what he's saying around the last of the passes. So D is the correct answer for this. So this is the approach for doing a matching feature question, but obviously when you are doing it while practicing, try to employ all these strategies, and when you become really comfortable with using these strategies, then you will be able to score a higher score in the exam. Do not directly use the strategy. If you are going to take a real exam, you must practice with these strategies first, and then when you are super comfortable with and you become time efficient with using these strategies, you can actually use these in the exams, and these will actually save you a lot of time as well. All right, moving on to next question type, which is also a major question type, a matching headings question. Let us look at the strategy for this question. Again, the answers are not in order for this question type. It is recommended that you do this question type first, unlike the matching information question, which I recommended to do it in the end. Now, while in the matching features questions, I mentioned that you are required to do that question type last. In the matching heading question, it's easy. It's going to be easy for you if you do this question type first, especially because in this question type, you are required to skim the entire passage and get the idea of what is the objective of each paragraph of the entire passage. So while you do this question, it actually makes you easier to do other question types, and hence it is recommended that you do this question type first. Moving on, obviously do not look at the headings first. In this case, we are going to read the first couple of sentences and the last couple of sentences of each paragraph to understand the main idea of each paragraph. So while you're looking at these paragraphs, mark the main ideas in 1 to 2 words in your question paper. If you are taking a computer-based test, you can use your pen or pencil, paper and pencil that has been given to you to make notes. So for each paragraph, try to note down the headings for in 1 or 2 words. Do not try to read every word of the text, but rather just skim through the entire paragraph. Again, identify keywords within each heading and identify the difference between each heading. Now we are looking at the headings, list of headings that has been given in the question. and we are going to try to identify the differences between each heading, because a lot of headings are going to look very similar, and just because of few words they are going to be different. So it is very important to carefully look at the headings and try to identify the difference between them. Now, as we have already looked at the passage and we have also looked at the headings, now we are going to go back to the passage and write 2 or 3 headings beside the paragraph. Identify the difference between each of the headings. Now, instead of writing the paragraphs in the side of the question, try to predict what headings actually make sense for the paragraphs that you have just read, and trust me, this will make your job a lot easier. We'll also solve a question using this strategy. The next strategy is establish, obviously be aware of synonyms in headings as well. This is the most common strategy in almost all the questions. And now let us look at a sample question for this question type, and you can download this question. I will also be providing a link as to where you can find this passage in the information about this YouTube video. And this question is basically from test from the British Council IELTS book, which you generally get after you book the test, from the academic reading test to passage 2, and the passage is called Miles Davis Icon and Iconoclast. So let us look at the sample for this question, and the sample is here. So basically in this question, write the correct number 1 to 9 in boxes 14 to 19 on your answer sheet. So the boxes 14 to 19 actually are the list of paragraphs, and you're required to find the headings for each paragraph in this question from the list of headings that has been given here. So obviously the first thing that you are supposed to do is understand the objective of each paragraph. So now let us try to do that, and while also try to predict the headings that actually fit into each paragraph. So starting with paragraph A, these are the 2 headings which I felt was rather fit for this paragraph. So if we read the first few lines and last few lines, so let us start. At the age of 13, Miles Davis was given his first trumpet. Lessons were arranged with a local trumpet player, and a musical odyssey began. These early lessons, paid for and supported, had a profound effect on saving. Okay, now let us read from this clear, distinctive style never left Davis. He continued playing with it for the rest of his career, once remarking, "If I can't get that sound, I can't play anything." So reading the first few lines and last few lines, we do realize that is it about his childhood and family life, or is it about Davis's unique style of trumpet playing? And the last line, kind of, the first few lines does make us feel like it's about his childhood and family life, but rather the entire objective of writing this paragraph is to show that how Davis got his unique style of trumpet playing, right? So if you really read this, Davis was taught to play with a long straight tone, a preference his instructor reportedly drilled into the young trumpeter with a trap on the knuckles every time Davis began using vibrato. And there is a clear distinctive style that never left. So that actually gives us our answer, that it's about the unique style of trumpet playing, and hence 8 is rather a supportive option for this question rather than option number 2. Obviously the paragraph is also talking about childhood and family life, but is the writer trying to just talk about his childhood and family life, or is he trying to give us a point or relate his childhood to something else in context of the entire passage? So you should be able to figure out that. Moving on, so we have already selected option number 8 for paragraph A, and so you can cross it out. Moving on and reading paragraph B, it's mostly about his high school and his education. Then we go on to read his enrollment in the prestigious Juilliard School of Music was short-lived. However, he soon dropped out, criticizing what he perceived as an overemphasis on the classical European. And Davis did later acknowledge, however, that this time at the school was invaluable in terms of developing his trumpet playing technique and giving him a solid grounding in music theory. Much of his early training took place in the form of jam sessions and in the clubs of 52nd Street, where he played alongside both up and coming and established members of the jazz pantheon such as Coleman, Eddie Davis, and Monk. So in this case as well, if you just look, roughly, you may think that formal education unhelpful is actually the topic for this question, but it's not really that, because he later does acknowledge that his school time was in fact invaluable, and this is an actually inaccurate information, so this would never be the heading for the paragraph anyways, and hence the correct answer is option number 2, which is an education in two parts, meaning both in clubs and in the classroom, which has in fact been given in the first line of the. Now see, obviously there can be times where you are not going to find the headings just from the first few lines and last few lines. In that case, try to read the entire paragraph. Some headings, you can find some headings easily just by reading the first few lines and last few lines, but some headings may ask you or require you to read the entire thing, so don't worry about that. It will just take you extra 10 seconds, but I think that those extra 10 seconds are worth it to for you to get to the correct answer. Now again, we have chosen option number 3 for paragraph B. Now let us read and understand paragraph C. And as we read the first few lines, in the late 1940s, Davies collaborated with 9 other instrumentalists, including a French horn and a tuba player, to produce the birth of cool, would later become known as cool jazz. Although it received little acclaim at the time, in hindsight, the birth of cool has become recognized as a pivotal moment in jazz. Alongside his 19th kind of blue, Davies' legacy as one of the most innovative. So, because of the word legacy here, and as we keep on reading, even though his music was actually not acclaimed at that moment, but a legacy was set there and then, and hence a legacy established is actually a better heading for this paragraph and the objective of this paragraph. So we have chosen option number 1 for paragraph C. Reading paragraph D, though Davis's trumpet playing may have sounded effortless and this ease rarely carried over into the rest of his life. Okay, the early 1950s in particular were a time of great personal turmoil. After returning from a stint in Paris, Davis suffered from prolonged depression. Okay, now, Davis was also frustrated by his perception that he had been overlooked, who were hailing the success of his collaborators and descendants in the cool tradition, but who afforded him little credit for introducing the cool sound in the first place. So, personal and professional struggles is, in fact, the correct heading for this paragraph, because that is being talked about in very great detail. Moving on for paragraph number E. In the later decades of his career, Davis broke out of exclusive jazz settings and began to diversify his output across a range of musical styles. Okay, so it's more about branching into new directions, which obviously is a heading here as well. Davis was pushing his boundaries further, covering pop anthems, time after time, human nature, dabbling in hip hop, and even appearing in some movies. So it's actually about branching out in new directions, and hence, question number 4 is going to be a proper heading for paragraph E. So keep on looking at the headings as well, and you are going to find the perfect fit. So here, instead of going to the questions and going to the headings and then trying to find the fit paragraph, you should actually go to the paragraph and find the fit headings from the list of options. And obviously the number of paragraphs are lesser than the number of headings, so it's obviously better to start with the questions that are actually less in number. Finally, reading paragraph number F, not everyone was supportive of Davis's change of tune. Compared to the recordings of his early career, universally applauded as trumpeter Winston Marsalis derided his fusion work as not being true jazz. Pianist Bill Evans denounced the corrupting influence of record companies, noting that wider audiences, Davis remained defiant, commenting that his earliest recording were part of a moment in time. He firmly believed that remaining stylistically inert would have hampered his ability producing music. Davis' continual revamping of genre was not merely a rebellion, a necessary part that releases full. So change necessary to stay creative. So because he kept on changing, and he believed that if it did not change, he would actually be inept of his creativity, and hence so this word actually give us our answer. Stylistically inert would have ability to develop is again new ways is another rephrasing for the word creative, and hence this is going to be our perfect heading for this paragraph. Now as you can see, there are so many options remaining, but it's very important to find differences between each of the list of headings that has been given. Now this is how you solve a matching heading question type. Till now we have solved 5 question types, and we have actually discussed some of the major question types of the reading section. So this should be it for today's class, and in the upcoming class we'll be talking about the remaining 5 question types. I'll see you then. Thank you.